mission is provide networking platforms for separation scientists to exchange information on career development, technical innovation, and also recognize outstanding young scientists. There's no membership fee, and you can join CACA through LinkedIn group or WeChat group. You can find all the information from our website, which is www.ca-ca.org. Here list our main activities. All the board members for CACA actually is volunteer. So the activities through the years, the first one, networking dinner events. Since 2008, every year at Pittcon we have networking dinner event. This year's is actually tonight. You can see the flyer actually in front, and we have quite a few copies here. You can scan the 2D code to purchase ticket. We do have bus available for you to take you to the restaurant tonight. It's always fun, and you'll enjoy it. Welcome. Hope to see you there. I also listed a little bit information here, but anyway, you can see more detailed info about the event on the flyer. And also, HPLC, every other year we have similar dinner event as well in US. The second is a career development workshop, like the one we are having right now. So the same things is inception. We started at Pittcon every single year, invited outstanding scientists and leaders in separation science field to share their story examples of their career development and successful stories. So today we have 4, and we all are excited and looking forward to that. And other events, it's more technical related. We have technical sessions at different conferences like CPs, AS and EAS, and also Iron Conference on Chromatography organized by instrumentnet.ca. And we also organize virtual conference and webinars. So far we've organized 50 plus all free webinars. So you can pay attention to our LinkedIn account and also website, and you will see all those webinars. A lot of good learning opportunities. I think that's, I want to take this opportunity to congratulate our 2004 CACA award winners. The ceremony is tonight at tonight's dinner event, so congrats. We have one winner at least sitting in the audience. Congrats. And this is for next year's award. You welcome to self-nominate yourself. And also you see someone is outstanding, have significant contribution to separation science field. Please nominate them for next year's award. And last but not least, we appreciate our sponsors' financial support. This is our year 2024-18 sponsors. So without further ado, let's start our today's session. Our first speaker, Dr. Chad Briscoe. I know Chad, oh my gosh, I don't want to just say years, means I'm old, right? So 24 years ago, when I was doing postdoc in Dr. Hage's lab in University, Lincoln, Nebraska, so Todd was working in Harris lab and also pursuing his PhD. So you're a big fan over the years. So Chad currently is the executive VP of Celerion. He is absolutely the leader in bioanalytical field. I'm not gonna steal it, I'll let you introduce yourself. Chad has been really a superstar in the field. So take it away.
All right. Well, fantastic. I'm really excited to be here today. Tal asked me, I think it was 2019, then we had this pandemic, and I had a couple of job changes in the way, and so finally I'm here. So really excited. This is going to be a talk, very different from anything I've ever done. I started thinking about how to put this together, and I don't know if I came up with a way to make it more interesting or more boring. So when I go through it, you guys can decide. But what I can assure you is that I've known Shane for many years, and when Shane comes up, that won't be boring. So hopefully I can keep you guys engaged. But one of the things that I want you to take away from this. So I didn't count exactly. I think there's about 22. I'll call them lessons, and that'll make a little bit more sense when I get into it. But if you go through this and you pick out 2 or 3 things that resonate, and if in 20 years you're standing up here doing this talk, or in 6 months you're talking to your boss and you think about something and that resonated with you and you took that away, I would be so grateful to know that. You don't have to email me and tell me, but you can. But just so, if you just get a little bit out of this, and that's one of the things that I think I've done and tried to do, over the years, is every conversation, every talk, don't try to take it all in, right? There's too much, even in a 30-minute talk. Try to pull one really important piece out that you can take forward and get something out of it. So I'm going to start. Essentially, I have 2 sections. So I'm going to have lessons from mentors, and then I'm going to talk about some advice from me. So this is the boring part, is every slide looks like this. But not every slide has the same words. But okay, so embrace the fear. So I'm doing a podcast now, which if you guys want to check it out, you're welcome to. I don't make any money or anything. It's just for fun. It's just a great way to have conversations and communicate with people. But I was in a podcast recording recently with Russ Weiner, and Russ is a VP of research at CACA. So extremely successful guy. And he talked about this, and I decided to put this one first because as I thought about this, literally for almost 5 years now, since the invitation came so long ago, I've been thinking about doing the talk like this, and then I shift over to something more traditional, and I couldn't figure out what that looked like, and I didn't, I was still kind of putting these slides together early January when I had this conversation with Russ, and one of the things he said that really resonated for me, again, this whole conversation with Russ, amazing oncology and all this, he said, throughout his career, when he embraced the fear, and I think another thing he said was be brave, kind of the same theme. That was where he took the best opportunities, where he got the most out of things, and he even talked a little bit about opportunities where he did not embrace the fear, where he wasn't brave, and he regrets those a little bit. And so embrace the fear. Be brilliant at one thing. All right, this also came from podcast. Actually, I recorded it last week, so I added it. But this is a guy, Russ Grant. So Russ is the VP of research at LabCorp. So again, another tremendously successful guy, and just fascinating. I asked him what advice he would give to people, or what he does give, and he said when he talks to grad students, he tells them kind of similar to what I said, where try and just extract one thing. If you can get one lesson out of it, right, you're doing pretty well. So he said, what he tells grad students is don't try and be all things to all people. Don't try and do it all. You're in grad school. You're trying to get through this. Be brilliant at one thing. And so for me, I think I was kind of reflecting through my career, and I think at different points in my career, I was really focused on which thing I should be brilliant on. And I think in that early part, I started in this field around 1990. I guess it was 95. I had my first real job at Dow running mass spec. And back then, and probably for about 5-6 years, I was really trying to be brilliant at mass spec, and I think I was pretty good at it. And then I started learning, getting into management, taking on some different roles and doing some different things. And so what you're brilliant at sort of changes as you move through your career. All right, this is an interesting one. Don't apologize if it's not your fault. This actually came out of grad school. And at first I thought it was kind of harsh, but I had been given the responsibility for the grade book at University of Michigan undergraduate chemistry. So there's like 2,000 students taking this one class, right? And And there were all these challenges of people couldn't remember how to record their name right on the Scantron sheets, and this is 95, 94, 95. And there are all these issues, right? And they weren't my fault, but I was in charge of the grade book, so I'm apologizing to students, I'm apologizing to professors. The woman who was in charge of that pulled me aside and she said, Chad, you're doing a brilliant job. I guess I was being brilliant at that. She said, you're doing a brilliant job, you're doing a fantastic job with this, but you're going around, you're apologizing for this stuff. You didn't do any of it. You're fixing it all. So why are you apologizing for either past mistakes? She said, focus on the solution, focus on moving forward, and don't spend this time apologizing when it's really not your fault, right? Because I was spending all this time, and you kind of make it look like it is your fault. So don't apologize if it's not your fault. Always hire strength. Okay, this is so important. My goal now is if everybody I hire is smarter, can work harder, can work longer, can do better than me, rises further than I have in my career, is more brilliant than me, that to me is achieving, right? That's the number one thing I think I could do in the current role I'm in. But it came from probably way back when I knew Tao. No, it came from probably around 2000, 2001. One of my coworkers was interviewing, and they said to my boss at the time, the boss we had, he said, I'm worried about hiring this person because they might be better at this job than I am, right? And they might supplant me. And she said, are you crazy? She said, you always hire the best people you can find, but there are people who maybe they don't embrace the fear, right? So many of these themes start overlapping she said, so many of these themes, she said, hire the best person. This person will lift you up, right? If you're a good leader, if you can inspire them, yeah, they're going to lift you up. They're going to move up. They probably will be in your role. And as I said, I'd like nothing better than to see the people I mentor, grow, get to where I'm at, advance, whether that's scientifically, whether that's, I'm a VP, maybe they're a CEO, whatever that means, right? But from that point on, and I was lucky to hear that again back in probably around 2000, 2001, I have always said I want to hire people. If everybody that works for me is smarter than me, better than me, that is phenomenal. All right, you guys are gonna like this one. This one's come back to me probably more than any in this entire section. So, Chad, Rudolph, you're responsible. We're on a call with it was an internal call about a customer, and it was just a mess, right? And I was running the lab in Lincoln, Nebraska, and Rudolph was running our lab at the time up in Montreal, and this call was just a mess. And our VP at the time just he stops the call and he says, "Stop!" And he's one of those guys who just get right to the point, there's no messing around, right? You always know your expectations with him. This was him setting those expectations, but it was a call with probably 20 people, and he just says, "Stop the call. Chad, Rudolph, you are responsible. I'm hanging up because I'm not going to listen to this anymore. You're going to have a call with me as soon as it's over, and you're going to tell me what the solution is," because I just, he just wasn't going to sit through it, right? And he was right. It was a mess. That whole call was a mess. And we were responsible, but we weren't stepping up, right? So remember, and this is something I try to do now with my teams also, maybe not in as blunt of a way, but if needed, yes. But identify who, when you own it, if you own it, if you're a leader and you own it, or if, somebody in your organization, make sure they know, make sure they have clear expectations, because I've certainly, having heard that and even with that advice and that information that clearly resonated with me, almost made me cry, to be honest, but still, there are times, right, where you make those mistakes and you realize, and I know that I've talked about projects with teams, and I walk out of the room and I'm then it doesn't go well and it doesn't kind of get kicked off. I'm like, oh man, I'm not sure anybody knows who's actually in charge of it. That probably makes them think that it's me, and I didn't think it was me, but ultimately, it is my. Sorry about that. I should have put that on. Oh no, that's not. I don't know what that buzzing is. Oh, it's yours. Is it? I have no idea what that is. You want me to answer? next time I'm gonna answer it though. All right, don't make your problem their problem. I had a boss, and it kills me, because I had a boss that was the worst boss ever. I mean, he made my life miserable. I would drive to work, and every day I'd drive to work. He came in really early. I came in early, but he came in a little earlier, which is fine. But I would drive in and be like, oh, please, I hope his car's not in the parking lot. Every day. He made me so miserable. And just, yeah, terrible person. But it kind of kills me, because this isn't the only lesson that I learned from him, right? And I think it's so important to, even in the worst conditions, in the worst situation, I could have shut out everything he said, I could have ignored him. I did end up quitting because of him and moved on at one point. But he said, we had an issue. It was, you guys are all, scientists, so it was back, kind of relatively early days in 96 well plates, and I think it was like the plate map and how the plate sealer, and we couldn't get them, the supplies were low, and then we got some in and they didn't seal the same way, and so we had like contamination, all, just stupid problems that are really annoying, but they're the real problems that we have to solve in the labs. And we're getting on the phone with customers like, oh yeah, the supplier can't get us more, and therefore your project's delayed. Like, we're saying that we can't solve this for you, so we're just gonna shove our problem on you because we didn't plan in advance. We didn't order the right amount of materials. We didn't have a backup plan. We didn't test robustness of the assay, whatever it was, right? And I just remember him saying, like, next call, he's like, next call I'm gonna be on. And again, he didn't say it very nicely, but I didn't cry that time. But he said, when we get on this call with this next customer, you're gonna go in and you're gonna give a solution. You're not going in to make our problem their problem. You need to come to them with a solution on how we're gonna get past this, right? We can state the facts, we don't have them, fall on that sword, but don't talk all about your issues with supplier or how you do supply chain or somebody didn't place the order. I don't remember what it was even exactly, but when you get on that phone with a customer, when you're talking to your boss, I think the way you can turn this probably is to come with a solution and don't focus on what the problem is, especially if maybe you've caused it. That doesn't really serve you well anyways, right? Do the unexpected. All right. I could say I made a career out of this. I'll talk a little bit more about just making some decisions, doing things, but I've never been afraid to not take the path that everybody expects. Whether that's in a discussion with a customer, to be overly transparent on how our approach is to what we do. If that's promoting somebody that's junior because that they're a phenomenal talent, and you figure out a way to make it work because that's the person that needs to be in the role. If it's taking a job that doesn't look like the job that you might take, do the unexpected. That's going to be memorable, right? If you want to grow your career, I think as scientists, there's different ways people go. Some people are very happy, and I think it's fantastic to kind of continue to move along and just kind of do what you do, and that's tremendously important. But you're in this room to talk about a career, building a career. Do the unexpected, make yourself memorable, right? If you're not ever doing anything to make yourself memorable, then you're probably gonna not be memorable, and when that opportunity for promotion comes up, or that leadership opportunity, you're not gonna be thought of. So do the unexpected. I picked the wrong guy. So not too long ago, I had a conversation with a former boss, and this has been something that's been stewing in me for years and years, because at one point there was me and another guy who were both kind of in the running for a role, and I knew 100% I was the right guy for that job, right? It should have been me, and when it didn't end up being me, which thankfully hasn't happened a lot in my career, but when it did end up being me, I think because it wasn't a tremendously long time ago, and I think I was at a point of confidence and probably maturity in my career that I handled it probably how I needed to, right? I said, okay, it's not me. I'm gonna, you wanted me to do this different. I'm gonna go in this different direction. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna crush it. I did. Absolutely crushed this other role. Was never the role I wanted. Wasn't the role that I intended to have at the company, but I still crushed it. Went well. Opened up other opportunities down the road, and that's something you never know, right? Is how does diverting that path, take a different direction. So I didn't blow down, I didn't get upset, I didn't quit. I just dug in and did what was needed of me by the company. And then what was really gratifying is that, as I said recently, I was speaking with this former boss, and he said, I did want you to know, I never said it to you, and it's been years. I should have said it, before, but I picked the wrong guy. It should have been you, And I said a couple choice words because he and I are good friends now, but no, I said, you know what, it worked out, right? And you kind of look back at your career, and I look back at my career and where I'm at, and these things have a way of working out. I never worked the weekends, so I can't say this is totally true, but I will say, especially since I spent half the day in the airport yesterday working, but I will say what I took away from this is set aside that time to do the stuff for you, right? Especially for me, it was I work a lot, I work really hard, but earlier in my career it was actually harder than it is now. I think I'm better at focusing and setting goals, at saying, okay, if I have to work hard, I want to work hard during the week, so I'm not, working all day Saturday. I'm spending family time, I'm doing gardening, or the different things that I really like to do, so that I have more energy for the rest of the time. But what the advice I was given, and what this individual's advice was never work the weekends. He said he never does. He said he travels Monday morning, and he comes home, Friday night, sometimes late, and as somebody I worked with, I know he worked, a tremendous number of hours over the course of that, so I know he didn't work the weekends, but he got a hell of a lot done and was very, very successful in his career. Why change? Be the best you. I have struggled my entire life with some version of ADHD, attention, right? I mean, Tal, you're shaking your head, so you're probably like, yep, I know, yep, so I get about 5 minutes into a conversation, and I might be somewhere else. And I talked to a boss about this, and I said, how, because he clearly struggled with ADHD also, and I said, what have you done to do this? Should I take medication to help improve this situation? It's making it really hard to sit down and have meaningful discussions with my employees. And this is 6-8 years ago. It wasn't that long ago. I was in a director level role at that time, but I always struggled with having these meaningful conversations. And he said, why would you want to change? He said, look where you've gotten at your age with this. And he said, here I am. He was like mid-50s or something at the time. He said, here I am. He said, I think I have same issue, more so than you. And he said, I lean into it. He said, think about ways. So whatever your challenges are, weaknesses, you can sometimes, I feel like I've sometimes leaned into that, right? It's given me the ability to have thrown these slides together and not practice and come up here, and hopefully this isn't a complete waste of your time. But that's how I go about things. I do a lot of stand up, talking off the cuff. I would have been happy to talk for half an hour without any slides at all. But, so think about, what's really, what are your strengths? Lean into those strengths and think about how you might be able to turn some of those weaknesses on their head to really better yourself. There's a program from Gallup called Strengths Finders. I don't know if any of you have done that, but it's a phenomenal program. If you ever have a chance, Strengths Finders, you can actually find it on the Gallup site and just do the assessment yourself. It's kind of cool. It really tells you something about yourself. Be present. This is another one I struggle with. But in today's day and age, having your phone there, having whatever distractions you have, be present. This was actually advice from my mother-in-law. Bet you didn't expect that in a science talk. So, but yeah, I've had a great career. Kyle, you said great things about me. Really appreciate that. But and sometimes I do need to be humble. So, I was also skiing this past weekend with 3 of my friends from college. Going back over 30 years, and that's a group that'll keep you humble, right? It's a lot of successful guys, but they're keeping you humble. So find ways to stay humble as you accelerate your career. So, all right, I might need 7 minutes, but all right. Okay, so there's a few things I've figured out along the way. I won't say on my own, but they're advice that I've come up with that I've shared. So I hope these tips help. own your own career, nobody else will. So I've told this to people, I probably figured it out, I don't know, 15, 18 years ago, and when I started managing, because I would have employees that would come to me and they'd be like, oh, well, can you help me do this? Can you help me do that? Or can you, make this happen for me? I said, I've got all the time in the world for you if you're going to make it happen for yourself. But if you want to do a presentation so you can travel, so you can network, I'll give you tips, I'll give you advice, I'll guide you, but I'm not going to do it for you. And there's a lot of people out there who think that it's your job as a manager to hand people the next opportunity, but you got to own your own career, right? And if you're not getting what you need out of the company, if you're not getting what you need out of the role, take some action. Do something about it. Don't sit back. I mean, life is short, right? So do something about it. Surround yourself with the best people. Look outside. Look outside of science for leaders, mentors, friends. Actually, I added this one yesterday, so that's a good thing about not needing it. But I mentioned that I was skiing this weekend with these guys from college, and one's a CEO in economic development. Another one was he was actually CFO of Dow Corning before it got bought by Dow. Another one was is a VP of communications, right? I got so much out of the conversations with these guys. It was like a safe space, and they know really nothing about science. Like, it's amazing when you go outside and you're talking to people outside of our field, and you say the simplest things. They asked me what I was doing today. I said, I'm going to the Chinese American Chromatography Association. They understood Chinese American Association, but they probably had never heard the word chromatography. You just don't. But anyways, I got so much out of this, and surrounding myself and the lessons they have and the challenges and how they solve them in their space, absolutely valuable. So get outside of the box. If you're always hanging out with your work friends and other scientists, find other people that you can learn from. This is something I did naturally, and I think it really served me well. I didn't know I was doing it, but when I look back at my career, I sat in so many meetings over the years. Even when I was an instrument scientist, sitting in the lab running mass specs, and used to be going around and around and around, and nobody would make a decision. Are we going to go left? Are we going to go right? And I started figuring out, I didn't like long meetings because I have attention deficit, and so we have to drive this to a conclusion. And so I just would start saying, yeah, we're going to do X, right? And at first, I think I was doing it because I was like, yeah, this is the path we need to go. But as I got further along, sometimes I would just say, maybe you don't know if you need to do A or B. And so you just say, let's go down the path of A. And then all of a sudden, all the fans for B start speaking up, and the fans for A, and you start, and so you kind of, you can really drive some conversation. So think about that when you're in a meeting sometime and it's just not going anywhere. Just try saying what you want, right? And you got, again, go back to the first slide. You got to be brave when you do that. You may find you're the only one who wants to go down path A, but it can drive those discussions and those decisions in a direction where sometimes you're just going nowhere. Sometimes people just need something to react to, right? They just need something to react to. So give them something, right? And when people start seeing you lead at the front like that, making the decision, they're not going to remember. They're going to remember if a good outcome comes, and they're going to remember that you took the lead to make that happen. I don't think they're really going to, even if you're way towards A and you end up way towards B in the end, because that's where the team wants to go, I don't think they're going to remember you were there. They're going to remember how that conversation ended up and that you took the lead. So we thought it was 99, Long Beach when we met, Shane?
I think that's right. I was thinking that too, yeah.
So ASMS 1999, I was going around looking at posters, and I meet this guy from Pfizer, Shane, in the back, and I was just starting my PhD. I was working full time, and I decided to go back and get my PhD, and it was a good idea. I'm glad I did it, but I met Shane, and I couldn't believe it because I'm looking at his poster and talking to him, and he's like, oh yeah, it's part of my PhD research. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you work at Pfizer and you're doing your PhD? And he was doing what, the pentafluorophenols, or? That's right. And fantastic poster. We just got started talking, and I went, man, and I was just embarking, or maybe I was going to start in a couple months. I can't remember exactly the timing, but wow, this guy did it. And then, a year or two later, Shane was done. He was graduated, and we've been friends ever since. But find somebody to, that maybe charted that path. And you're not probably going to chart your path the same way. I mean, Shane and my career definitely, progressed in very different ways, but kind of in the same way at the same time. So, so he's somebody that I've been able to talk to over the years, and just always sharing, career advice and directions, but it was 2009 before I was finally done. But I always look and say, this has been done before. I can do this, right? I have to do it my way, but I can do this. Best things come when not looked for. So I spent a lot of time early on in my career trying to say, I should get this job, or I should get that job, or I want, here's my path, do this. And that worked. Sometimes, they'd say, oh yeah, okay, like I think I was really gunning for a team leader role for our mass spec team or something like that. And so anyways, I think that maybe came through, but then the absolute best opportunities came to me when I wasn't even looking. I met somebody at a conference for a job, right? I met I left PRA and I went to Bioanalytics in 2020, and I just happened to meet Jim Dayton, who was the CEO at a AAPS conference. And, I wasn't looking, I wasn't, but I had a big promotion once where I had no idea it was coming, So sometimes when you're not looking, sometimes when you're just driving hard, when you're working, when you're just doing the things you do, sometimes that's when those best opportunities come. I was really hoping, so I would say Shane falls into this as well, the cheerleader, because all those conversations over the years, and as I was going through grad school, I mean, he certainly was checking in and has been great in that regard. But I think, many of you involved in this association know Nadong Wang. So Nadong was at MDS way back in 97 to 98, I think, and so he was another one that, he would call me up and be like, Chad, why aren't you done with your PhD yet? I'd be like, did you call me for anything else? And he's like, no, you got to get done, man. You're too smart. You gotta finish this. You can work harder. Get done with this. And it was great, right? I didn't try and push him off. I didn't, he was always like, so yeah, let people be your cheerleader. And there are many other examples of that, but wanna try and finish up here. This is my last slide. This is another one. It kind of goes back to that slide about own your own career, right? So what I've found, especially with a lot of the entry-level lab staff, is they get really good at what they're doing. And I don't know, maybe it's old, and I'm kind of saying, kids these days or whatever it is, but it feels like it's gotten more extreme. But the people will get really good at their job, and they'll come and say, I'm ready for promotion. I should get a promotion. I'm doing more. I'm doing this next level thing, but they're not really behaving in that next level, especially when you go from a lab scientist job. If you want that jump to a leadership role or to a director role, if it's a lab where the culture is the staff in the lab wear jeans and t-shirts, and the leadership all wears slacks and a button-down shirt. If you want to move out of the lab, wear slacks and a button-down shirt. Accidentally, we work in lab organizations mostly, right? So I think, people are in the lab, but bump into, that leader and have a conversation. Do the job that's on that next level without asking for anything back for it, right? And then when that job opportunity opens up, it's going to be a no-brainer, right? You're going to be the one that should take that role. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope you found 2 or 3 things you can pull out of it. I'll certainly be around throughout the session, and I'll be around the floor of Pittcon this afternoon, and I am going to dinner. Really looking forward to that, to continue to talk. But feel free to email me, connect on LinkedIn, and if you want, BioTalk Unzipped is the podcast I'm doing. It's been a lot of fun. We just got about, I think we've recorded 4 different people, but I jokingly say on LinkedIn when I'm kind of promoting it that I actually like listening to my own podcast. I think it's pretty good. So maybe that's the humble part, right? I haven't perfected that yet, but it's pretty good. There's some really interesting people, some great lessons. So I'm gonna leave it at that. And yeah, thank you guys for the invite.